John Scott, Vic Carucci, Jonathan Acosta here on the campus of St. John Fisher University after the Bills getting training camp underway. Day one in the morning, thankfully, because the sun's already starting to melt us all here onto the turf. Number one story entering this morning's practice was once again James Cook, full participant in practice out the gate. Vic, what's the importance of that?
Well, I think it's vital because you're seeing an engaged player, and that's the way he looked on the field. And again, you're seeing the guy participate. There are things called hold-ins in the NFL that have become popular among players who are seeking those new deals. I don't think James Cook's desire to get a new contract is any less than it was before, guys, but I do think he's trying to, for his part, show not only the Brandon Beane, the coaching staff, but his teammates, that he's all here, that if I'm going to show up, I'm going to participate fully.
And he said, Sean McDermott said that he spoke with James Cook yesterday and was sort of able to shake his hand, and Cook said that he was ready to go. And I think that sort of speaks to what you said, that not only is Cook here, but that he's present and fully here and ready to be a contributing player to this team this year as much as he was last year. And Brandon Beane sort of talking about the business dynamic of things, you know, and they've lost players that they wanted to keep. For example, I think Matt Collins is a player not on the team this season that if money wasn't an issue, I think they would have liked to have him back this year. But there's the business element to everything, and Beane sort of brought it up in the context of talking about tre'davious, but also alluded to the thing with James Cook that, hey, they want the business thing to work out, but they still have another year left with him under contract, and for right now, Cook is ready to be an important player for this team.
And he referenced, Beane did, that you don't just think of these contracts in terms of the here and now. 26 season, correct. 27 season.
Yeah, Beane doesn't negotiate through the media. He makes that abundantly clear. He's consistently said that since taking into the role that he is. But he was, Brandon Beane, open as much as he would, really getting into the, hey, business is business. He once again has maintained steadfast. He wants a year from now to be looking out onto this field and see James Cook in red, white, and blue, but there is the business side of this. Do you come out of the latest from Brandon Beane's comments about this thinking a little more clearly of how this plays out?
Not at all. I really think Brandon Beane said the right things. I don't question the earnest thoughts that he had about him or the sincerity. I think he believes what he's saying, but I also think he knows the business of this business could lead James Cook out the door after this season. It's quite possible. Because, again, what is James going to seek? What's going to make him happy? And what will fit for the Bills? Guys, we're still looking at a team that is obviously top-heavy with the quarterback salary and other salaries at that upper tier. But as good as they are, people are getting paid, and they do have a lot of short-term deals, but with veterans who get higher-end money. So there's only so much to go around. The Super Bowl window that we talk about is kept open by the kinds of contracts that you have for higher-end players. Do you do that with James Cook as a running back? I don't know. He could very well run his way to a new contract elsewhere.
That's exactly what I think, and maybe it's me reading too much into this, but I just feel like, you know, he talks about the business, and if he had any sort of semblance of hope or confidence that a new deal would get done, I feel like there would be something he would say in these answers that you would pick up on and saying, hey, the business is the business, but there's a part of me that is not just hopeful but confident that something will get done at some point between now and next free agency. There's been no inkling of that. It's just him saying he hopes to have James Cook back here in uniform next season, but he could realistically say that about every player on his roster. I think the most likely scenario is probably what you've outlined, Vic, that Cook comes in, he's prepared for this training camp, he's prepared for this season, and if he has another season like he did last year, the Bills say thank you for your services, and that he probably has played himself into a new contract with a new team next year, and the Bills can turn to a Ray Davis who's on a rookie contract.
I think the franchise tag is in big play for next year. We'll wait for next year to further that point there. Another guy we did see on the field, not surprising because we didn't see him on any list heading into today, Joey Bosa. And that's a guy that I think is the most important piece to the Bills' defense because they are bringing him in, when healthy, to be finally the difference-making pass rusher that they have been lacking, honestly, the entirety of the Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott era. It's just one day. It's no pads. But how important is it that Joey Bosa is out there and healthy day one.
Yeah, and the when healthy part of that you mentioned, John, is the key here for the long haul. But for day one, just watching him out there participating after missing those off-season workouts with the calf injury, he went through his list. He said the calf is fine, the body is fine, and he said, and I think this was the thing that has been troubling for him. It feels like deja vu. Every training camp, questions start with asking him about his body, asking him about his health. This was no different, but it sounded in a good place. He's really thoughtful with the answers on this. I got into the how do you handle trusting your body, like that it's not going to let you down at some point. And I thought his answer was great. He said, look, I don't go in there expecting it not to service me well and allow me to be out there and do the things I need to do as a football player, but he also gave a little bit of hope to that, like let's, because it has let him down. But I think a healthy Joey Bosa, managed the right way with snap counts and so forth, could contribute in a significant way to a team that desperately needs pass rush upgrade. But we'll see.
And just the fact, like you said, that we saw him out here on the field was a good sign. Not just because he has the injury history from his time with the Chargers, but again, he missed basically the entire spring. And you can be as good, as experienced as Joey Bosa is. It's hard to walk into a new team, sort of pick up where you left off if you're not getting those practice reps with your teammates, getting involved with the defensive scheme and everything. So again, just the fact that he was out here today was a positive development. Now, the key focus for him is staying healthy through the rest of camp, because we've seen with guys like, for example, like a Curtis Samuel last year, brought in, expected to do big things, but injuries prevent him from doing stuff during the season, but that really traces back to what he was able to do or not do during camp as well.
Some guys on the other side of that who are injured, not out there to start training camp. Dawson Knox dealing with a calf injury that flared up training late, wearing a sleeve on his right leg. No timetable for him. Spencer Brown dealing with a back injury. Sean McDermott categorizing it as a flare-up recently, and McDermott noting, rightfully so, Brown not too far removed from back surgery a few off seasons ago, so just something to monitor. But add in Cedric Van Pran Granger also not out there. Laviska Shenault also dealing with injuries. But Brandon Beane making it clear this time of year is more of the we're going to be super, super, super cautious because we don't need to push it. Now, for some of the younger guys, like a guy like Shenault who needs to be out here as much as he can to try to make the team as a long shot, different story for Spencer Brown, Dawson Knox, and even Van Pran Granger. I don't think that they need to hurry their way back here. Positively, though, Cole Bishop back on the field, DeMar Hamlin back on the field, Maxwell Hairston back on the field, among others here. Let's start with Hairston, because he's the rookie, the first-round pick in maybe the biggest position battle that we got here. Did you watch him at all coming out of the spring? He's healthy. Where do you really set the table for him this training camp?
I still am leaning in the direction of him doing more watching of Tre'Davious White as a starter at that corner position opposite Christian Benford than I do Hairston beginning the year as the rookie starter there. I'm not going to rule that out. That's why he was drafted. The first-round pick means he's supposed to be out there sooner than later and be out there as a starter and have a long, illustrious career, just as they did or hoped with Tre'Davious White when they drafted him first round in the same basic spot of the draft in 2017. But I saw of White today a guy who looks like, you're asking me about Hairston, and the guy I was noticing making plays, and it was a red zone focused day for the offense and the defense. So White clamping things down near the end zone, I thought did a wonderful job in coverage and just moved well. Hairston still looking like a guy that athletically, speed-wise, has got everything going for him, but there's still the nuance part of the game that needs to come together. And again, who knows? Is that come together during the course of a camp, during the course of a preseason, during regular season practices, and then at some point do they say, okay, it's time to put him in there?
I want to touch on the Trey White thing too, because we can't just talk about what Max Hairston does in a vacuum. Considering he's in a camp battle, it's also within the context of what Tre'Davious White is doing and also who he is. And Brandon Beane made the point that he was sort of watching close to the sideline when White had that pass breakup, and there was sort of like a moment of energy from White, and Beane made a comment saying, I see you 2-7, and White said in return to him that it's good to be back comfortable with people that he's comfortable being with. And I think that sort of speaks to Hairston has all this talent, but he's around this Bills organization for the first time. Even though Trey White wasn't with the team last year, he's no stranger to this team, the coaches, the organization, the staff. So it's that probably feeling of comfort and knowledge of the defensive scheme that has him probably as the 1A right now, and it's Hairston working to supplant him probably more so than the other way around. Hairston himself did have a nice moment, though, in the back of the end zone with the pass breakup, and he demonstrated that energy, which I think is important to see from a rookie, because maybe the rookies can be here, get around the vets, and I don't know if it's them being shy or just trying to prove themselves a little bit, but that moment of energy, that release is good to see out of a guy like Hairston, because I think it indicates a little bit of confidence and him feeling well in his play. Just day one, so he has to build off of it after today.
I'm going old school. I'm using my observation notes here at camp throughout our time here at Fisher, back on real pen and paper. Vic,
I'm impressed.
You're glad?
That brings back a lot of memories.
So I can say from my memory, because it's not as good as it once was, Tre'davious White getting the first opportunities opposite of Christian Benford, but Hairston did see some time in with the ones as well. It's early. They have a plan, especially out the gate, for making sure the rep distribution for those types of battles is how they want it, so that people get the proper opportunities at the safety. Cole Bishop, Taylor Rapp are next to each other to start. But you do see sometimes DeMar Hamlin in there. Derek Forrest is someone who's in the mix as well. And then he's not in the mix to start, but just note the rookie Jordan Hancock, a lot of versatility starting off at safety here. Bishop being healthy, the bugaboo and the thing that maybe kept him from seeing the field more as a rookie, it's critical that he gets as many reps now as he can.
I don't think Sean McDermott could be clearer that, that's the plan, to have Cole Bishop start and be there with Taylor Rapp, but we'll see how that's going to play out because of the health issue. And that, too, is on the mind of Sean McDermott, on the mind of all of us paying attention to this football team. That set him back last year. That cost him an opportunity, I think, to be more involved and a bigger presence in this defense. They love the athleticism, the talent, the intelligence, the instincts. Checks all those boxes, but the health box is the one that hasn't been checked yet, and we'll just have to see. Day one, you make a list of things you want to see more than, okay, this happened on day one, so let's call it, he's fine. No, we don't know until we see him get through these drills. And remember, the pace of camp intensifies as it goes along. Today is just shorts and jerseys, no pads. They will have those contact workouts. We'll see what the results are of those from a physical standpoint.
It really seems like the table is set for Cole Bishop to win the job, but they're not just going to hand it to him. He has to at least come out here and prove it on a day-to-day basis that he's the one deserving of that job. But like you said, Sean McDermott basically said everything other than he's the one in line to start. He mentioned how Bishop knows the challenge that's ahead of him and how much they want him to contribute to the team this year. When I spoke with him earlier in the offseason, sat down with him, and he reflected a lot on the challenges of his rookie season and picking up the defensive playbook, the big difference from year 2 to year 1. And he touched on the health and how he stayed in the Buffalo area and worked to get healthy. So I think he's saying all the right things and doing all the right things to put himself in a position to sort of avenge last year. Because I think a lot of us even think, had he been healthy for training camp last year, he might have won that starting job, even in spite of maybe his lack of knowledge of the defensive playbook. It certainly feels that, like you said, if he can just stay on the field this training camp, he's going to be the week 1 starter.
Let's go back to the defensive line, because it's a really interesting situation the Bills are dealing with throughout training camp. A lot of new guys, whether they're free agent additions or rookies that were draft picks, you're integrating everyone. You're also trying to figure out your rotation with 2 guys that are additions that are going to be suspended for the first 6 games of the season. Have you ever seen situations, certainly I'm sure not with 2 guys at the same position group, but have you ever seen how teams have tried to navigate knowing they're not going to have someone at the very beginning, but trying to kind of figure out what they've got now?
I probably have. I can't think of any specific instances.
Well, I mean, this
like
is about
that.
as rare as you could get.
And so I'm going to call this, a new thing. Here is what I would add, though, quickly to this. This team is pretty much a finished product. It's not a team that's being built. Let's get that straight. Yes, we know there's some competition at positions, but we're not looking at a roster like a lump of clay that has to be molded. They're molded. We know what the strengths are. And on offense, it's not just Josh Allen. We know that offensive line, and again, Spencer Brown's health, something to monitor, but that's a rarity in itself to have stay as healthy as it did last year. But as a whole, and a receiver here and there, we got to see how that works out. We're looking at a team that's pretty well set. Yes, they want to get better on the D-line and have more teeth to that pass rush. And 2 guys who are suspended for half of this season are potentially parts of that. But I think they can manage without it with what they have. I'm not saying it'll be the line they want it to be. Maybe the best scenario that they're looking at, you get to the halfway point of the season, now you got 2 fresh bodies that are joining this group that has done whatever it did through those first half. It could be an upward trajectory. It could keep it on the same plane. We'll see.
And maybe a silver lining of those 2 guys, Ogunjobi and Hoyt, missing those first 6 weeks is maybe there's a chance for a little bit of accelerated development for the rookies. Like I like Landon Jackson on the edge. Do we see maybe more opportunities for him? And they know they're going to have to count on Deion Walker and TJ Sanders, the 2 rookie tackles inside to develop. So do these suspensions open the door for these guys to maybe accelerate their development than they normally would in the first 6 weeks of the season? So that way when you get Ogunjobi back and Hoyt, you really feel good about the overall depth along the defensive front.
I can't believe it's taken us this long to talk about the MVP, and that is Josh Allen here. You mentioned doing a lot of red zone work. I'll be honest. Even for day 1 of training camp, it was an uninspiring, at least, execution and performance. Now, Josh Allen saying afterwards, hey, it's good and smart, and nothing is wrong with throwing the ball away and living to play another day. He was certainly doing some of that. It is what it is. You're not going to take too much from it, but just an interesting start there. That Tylen Grable, the next one in line, I would say, that is what happened, at right tackle in place of Spencer Brown, Ryan Vandemark after that. Let's get to Hard Knocks, because holy smokes, you literally step 3 feet onto the campus here at Fisher, and it is an army of NFL Films people in blue shirts with equipment that I am envious of and crews that I am envious of. As much as the Bills may try to say it's business as usual, they're not going to be distracted, I'm distracted because it is just so big of a production that it is impossible to not be aware of it.
I mean, the thing that stands out, now there are a lot of cameras here on a regular basis, including the one that is shooting this, and Brad's behind it. What's the width of that lens there, Brad? What would you call that? About 4 inches?
Three,
let's call it 3 or 4 inches. These guys show up with cinematic cameras like that, about that wide, because it's a different kind of shooting. I'm not going to get in the weeds on technicality here, but they're shooting this thing for HBO, and it's supposed to present itself as something different, something elevated, and people being wired for sound. Look, we're hearing them, players, coaches, say all the right things about this won't be a distraction. It's business as usual. Baloney. It's not business as usual. This is very different. There are mics and cameras everywhere throughout. This crew came in, I understand, like last week to spend days putting things in place and loading in all their equipment. I talked to members of the Bills staff about it, and the short of it is this: NFL Films, who does this with a whole bunch of teams, we know this is the first for the Bills. They ask for this, basically this, and then the Bills come in with what they say you can have. Again, this is a high-end team they're dealing with, a Super Bowl contender. So maybe the Bills are here, NFL Films is here, and they arrive at this middle point. From what I understand, that has been the at least tacit agreement of where they landed on how much of the inside and behind the scenes you're going to see.
Again, it's just the sheer number of people that stands out to you. The only group of people more color coordinated in uniforms than us here with our red polos is the blue shirts of NFL Films. But you have people like doing everything. And local TV, you might have someone with a tripod and a camera. You have one person with a microphone. They have another person down on the floor shooting with the camera. You have another person with the tripod. It's a big production. You see how HBO is able to produce such good quality. I'm just going to be very interested to see what gets actually shown on screen, because as Sean McDermott said, everyone knows what happens on Sundays. People are really going to get to see what this team is like Monday through Saturdays, which for us, and we get to interact with them and stuff, we kind of sort of have an idea of how they are within themselves, with their families. I think there was a cool moment actually after practice where Deion Dawkins was playing around with his kids. A lot of the families came down to the field after practice, and then Trey White comes up and Deion Dawkins says, "Hey, do you recognize who this is? This is Uncle Trey." And then Trey White takes off his helmet, and it was just a very nice moment. I think those are the sort of things you'll get to see on HBO Hard Knocks that you don't always get to see on the broadcast. But in that sort of setting, you're going to be able to maybe form sort of that closer personal connection to the players on this team.
One of the things that cracked me up, though, is Sean McDermott said, "We have nothing to hide." Yeah, you do. Yes, you do. There are portions of practice. They do the installation stuff that happened before they got here. my understanding was none of those NFL Films cameras was there for that, for obvious reasons. And they do a lot of that work when we're around, and there's certain places we can shoot or not shoot to do stuff like this. So, look, there is stuff to hide. It's called the competitive edge that you want to keep, and it's an important thing. And coaches are the most paranoid human beings on this planet, I believe. I put them right up there, and they're proud of that. So, yeah, I think it's done with give them something, give the audience something, but you don't give them too much.
Yeah, they don't have something to hide. I'm surprised there are not snipers on the roofs of these buildings here at Fisher, because if you walk from our dorm rooms where they allow us to stay between 6 and 7 during their walkthrough on this field, they got a poor sap making minimum wage. It's probably 21 years old saying, do not go there. And I'm like, sorry, I'm carrying some waters from Wegmans and I'm going up to my dorm room. I don't care what they're doing in shorts and no shoes here on the field over here.
Exactly.
It'll be interesting. Josh Allen mic'd up, Brandon Beane mic'd up, Josh joking. I had to be a little less colorful with my language. Beane says, Beane's Beane. He's gonna be on there. It's HBO. You'll maybe see a side of him outside of his appearance on WGR that you didn't think was in there. Day 2 again tomorrow morning. Expected to hear from James Cook, and I went out and put out, before things getting underway, my 53-man roster projection before camp getting underway, WGRZ.com. I went heavy on defensive backs, lighter at the linebacker position. Counter to what they've done in the past, it absolutely will not be 100% correct, so check it out and give me your feedback. We'll all be back over the coming weeks here at Fisher. With Jonathan Acosta, Vic Carucci, I'm John Scott for Channel 2 Sports.